evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. As election night approaches, our reporters will fan out across the country, bringing you all of the ridings and candidates in play. As we've been doing along the way, we're going to zoom in tonight on a riding of interest, Winnipeg North. Here's Daryl Stranger with a look at the electoral district and what the people there are looking for.
The federal election is in full swing, and people are looking at who is running in their area. For Kim Catchaway, crime is top of mind.
All of it. And the crime, the guns. There's guns everywhere. I'm scared to go out at night. Like, I'm old, but I mean, I've lived on the street all my life too. But I mean, these kids these days.
I spoke to her and other residents in the Winnipeg North riding. It's a tough neighborhood.
A lot of the issues with the North End are homeless people, which is actually all over the city. And it needs to be cleaned up. Like the alleys, it's like the garbage never gets picked up.
Those comments are echoed by Stephanie Desmarais.
Probably just the violence and homelessness.
Violence and homelessness?
Most of the violence is like abandoned kids, I guess. Like young teens, homeless teens.
And the issues have been the same for some time.
When I was around these areas, like that was the issues. The kids and some violent kids.
Mary Burton said employment could help.
We need more employment for more of our residents here in the North End. People who are given a hand up rather than a handout feel empowered, and they're able to make things better for themselves and their families.
Advocate Michael Redhead Champagne is an area resident as well.
I think some of the most important topics for us to be focusing on in this election is to be how do we address homelessness, how do we actually move towards real reconciliation, and what are we going to do about child welfare, specifically in the North End of Winnipeg? Those are the most important topics that I hope our future representative is able to give us some answers on.
The riding of Winnipeg North has a high proportion of immigrants and Indigenous people living here. According to the 2016 census, 51% of people are visible minorities and 18% are Indigenous. Mary said she wants a candidate that lives here and knows the issues.
I am looking for somebody who is from the city, somebody who lives here, who understands the unique challenges that residents in the North End face, somebody who knows how to navigate the systems for those residents in our little community.
For her, housing is a huge concern.
We need more bigger units. There's like 1 and 2 bedroom units. We need 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units for the larger families that are having to live in 2 and 3 bedroom units and tripping all over each other and not having enough space to be able to separate. And God forbid somebody in one of those units gets COVID.
There are 3 candidates confirmed so far who are running in Winnipeg North. Liberal Kevin Lamoureux has been MP for more than a decade after the NDP lost a 13-year run. But he's being challenged by new NDP candidate Melissa Chung Mowat, a Métis Chinese citizen. Rounding out the lineup is Anas Kassim for the Conservatives. Champagne also says the person leading has to live in the area.
I'm looking for a candidate that lives in the neighborhood, first of all. I'm not interested in voting for anybody who does not live here, first of all. The other thing that I'm looking for in any candidate is I'm looking for people that are able to understand jurisdiction and propose solutions that are within the federal jurisdiction.
Both Michael and Mary questioned why the election was called at all.
I personally think it's irresponsible to be calling this election right now amidst the coming 4th wave, but at the same time, I appreciate the opportunity for citizens in Winnipeg North to exercise their voices.
Well, I think it's pretty weird that we're having such an election in the middle of a pandemic, but I look forward to being able to talk to the candidates and see where they're at.
In any case, this will be a riding to watch. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks for that, Daryl. Well, the RCMP Civilian Review and Complaints Commission has been flooded with complaints against police at the Fairy Creek protest site. An email from the Commission says the police watchdog has received 73 complaints, 17 of which qualify for an investigation. Lawyers for the Rainforest Flying Squad, which is representing some of the protesters, say that more than 70 complaints have been filed. Since mid-May, the police have been enforcing an injunction that allows forestry group Teal Jones to operate in the area. The Mounties report they have made over 800 arrests. Well, Manitoba is tightening its COVID-19 restrictions in hopes of dulling the expected fourth wave of the virus and the highly contagious Delta variant.
This has developed new requirements for individuals to be fully immunized to participate in certain events and activities.
Effective September 3rd, every Manitoban will need to show their vaccine card or QR code to enter public spaces. These include sporting events and concerts in restaurants and theaters. Children 11 and under who are not eligible for the shot will be able to attend these events with a fully vaccinated adult. Manitoba also reinstated the mandatory mask mandate, which is effective at midnight tonight. Well, a First Nations man from Saskatchewan who went missing last September has been found deceased almost a year later. Tristan Chaboyer was 24 at the time of his disappearance. The Cumberland House man went missing last year from Prince Albert in northern Saskatchewan. His case was suspected to be a homicide. Remains found earlier this year in a wooded area northeast of Prince Albert were DNA tested, and today the Prince Albert police confirmed that they do belong to Chaboyer. No word yet on the cause of death. Well, here's an update now on a story that we first told you about last month. A Mi'kmaq woman missing since then has been found. 37-year-old Adria Marie Glode of Millbrook wasn't heard from since July 13th, the day after someone in Millbrook killed Douglas Burt Knockwood of Sabaganagady. Yesterday, Glode was arrested in Quebec and brought back to Nova Scotia, and she's been charged with being an accessory after the fact to murder. According to court documents, Glode is alleged to have helped someone else involved in to escape. She is still in custody. She is set to appear for bail on August 31st. Corporal Chris Marshall speaks for the RCMP in Nova Scotia.
So accessory after the fact would essentially be someone who in some way would have assisted or aided in any activity related to the homicide or after the homicide would have occurred, and essentially that is what she's charged with. Obviously, given that Ms. Glode has a right to a fair trial, I can't provide further specifics, but that's generally what that charge means.
In southern Alberta, the opioid crisis is getting worse. Officials say that most of those deaths happen off reserve. With new restrictions on safe injection sites, what will it take to lower the overdose rate? Tamara Pimentel finds out.
Jason Brownweasel is on the road to recovery. He lives on the blood reserve with his brother, niece, and nephews after struggling with an opioid addiction. This after living on the streets of the nearby city of Lethbridge, where the homeless population is predominantly Blackfoot. Brownweasel says deadly overdoses on the streets has become the norm.
I've lost my own brother to it. I was saving up to 8 to 9 people a day, walking around with these Naloxone kits and just saving people left and right. I think we're losing more people to this drug than we are losing to COVID.
The opioid crisis for Blood Tribe members has become a pandemic in itself. The community has been hit hard with waves of overdoses, and it's only gotten worse since COVID-19.
In the past year, Blood Tribe has lost 194 members to substance-related deaths.
Dr. Susan Edelman of the Blood Tribe Health Department says the community has made the issue a priority with the help of detox departments that help users during withdrawal. She says overdose rates have been lowering on reserve, but off reserve?
And the interesting thing is that most of those are actually in Lethbridge and Calgary. They're not on the reserve. So to me, this says the reserve is doing a great job in taking care of its own people, but they're not getting that care off reserve at all.
In early August, 2 nonprofit organizations, Moms Stop the Harm and the Lethbridge Overdose Prevention Society, sued the Alberta government for new rules around safe injection sites. Those rules include the need for clients to provide an Alberta health card and ID.
So by asking someone who probably doesn't have ID to provide ID and actually identify themselves when they're doing something that they feel they could be punished for anyways, they're just not going to use that facility.
Dr. Edelman says she is a supporter of those nonprofit groups and says around 80% of users at the Lethbridge Mobile Injection Site are Indigenous.
How many people in the streets actually carry a health card?
From my experience, Not very much. Maybe 2 out of 20 would have that, would have their medical card. And if they did give it, they would lose it, just because of, you know, them being overdosing and people practically rummaging through their stuff while they're overdosing.
Brown Weasel says safe injection sites prevent relapsing while addicts wait to get into treatment centers, and no access to those sites mean more deaths.
They're being put alone most of the time, and they're overdosing and dying alone.
Brown Weasel says with the success rate of the Blood Tribe, more members struggling with addictions are going to Lethbridge for easier access to the drug. He encourages them to continue carrying and using naloxone kits and to go back to the community where help and cultural practices are accessible.
A person like me can do it. Why can't, you know, anybody save one person at least? If not that, save the rest of them, is because they need it. They all need it. They all need this help that they're not getting.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News on the Blood Reserve.
We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll tell you about some of the most pristine fresh water in the world and what one community in the Northwest Territories is doing to protect it. That's coming up. The Northwest Territories host some of the most pristine freshwater in the world, but it takes a lot of partners to keep it that way for future generations. Our reporter Charlotte Mort-Jacobs looks at how that plays out in one small community.
I'm just showing them how.
Normally, Carmela Klinkenberg uses an ulu, but as a guest, she's adapting just fine. Water stewardship gatherings like this one in Kagetu First Nation, Kikiza Northwest Territories, are all about knowledge exchange.
Learning what I could do in the future to help protect our water and our land.
The 5-day gathering is a partnership between Kagetu First Nation, Northern not-for-profit Ecology North, and Wilfrid Laurier University. The goal is to get youth, elders, researchers, and community members thinking about water.
Yeah, it'd be good to get and pass it on, what they see and learn.
Chris Chico is a local fisherman. Just look at how fast he fillets. He says the water around Kikiza is warming, and he has to pull his nets more frequently.
Usually where we commercial fish across the lake, there's usually a lot of suckers when you first start. About 20 tubs a day. But now there's no suckers, just straight pickerel.
Klinkenberg also experiences climate change back home in Uluaktak.
Everyone noticed that our ice is going more rapidly, and a couple times we had to go by boat to go duck hunting, which we usually did on machines. And
Chico also understands the unpredictability. In 2019, he rescued 3 boaters from the mouth of the Kikiza River.
Yeah, it just changes. The weather changes pretty quick here, so especially with the high water, it takes a while for it to calm down.
That water travels quite that distance.
The Mackenzie River watershed is massive.
It is surprising to see that many locations connected through water.
So protecting the water involves many parties.
And I'm going to ask you,
including researchers like Stephanie Woodward, who helps plan and organize community-led camps for Wilfrid Laurier.
And these camps allow young researchers like myself and scientists to come and share their knowledge about things that they've been studying here in these territories, and brings that relationship much closer between the science that is collected from the lands and the communities who need to benefit from that knowledge.
The approach here, it will take partnerships to protect water.
If I want clean water for me and the next generation and the next generation after that, I'm going to have to be putting in the work to, with all the other youth. And
Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Kikiza.
Some relief for British Columbia. The numbers of active forest fires across the province is down to about 240. 22 of those fires, including the White Rock Lake, Tremont Creek, and the Leighton Creek fires, are considered fires of note. Milder weather is in the forecast across most of BC, which could give more than 3,800 firefighters battling these blazes a little bit of a break. Well, 2 more members of the Edmonton Elks football team have tested positive for COVID-19. That brings the total number of cases to 14 since the team returned from Vancouver after last week's game against the BC Lions. CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrose says that most of the cases were unvaccinated. Last night's game with the Toronto Argos was postponed. Commonwealth Stadium remains closed. The Elks will address the situation during a news conference today. Well, it's time for another break, but when we come back, a Paralympian is going to be joining us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Janice Gladish sends us this picture of her cute little grandkids posing with a piece of art that Janice made to commemorate the unmarked graves found at former residential schools. You can keep those pictures coming, email them to share@aptn.ca, and then tune in each day to see if it's our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting in the east, we've got 24 in sunshine for St. John's, 28 for Charlottetown and Halifax. La Grande River, chance of showers and 24 degrees, mix of sun and cloud, and 16 for Coujouac. Sut Hills, 23 and sunny skies, Gaspé, 31 in sunshine. North Bay, 23 with a chance of showers, sunshine for Sault Ste. Marie, and 27 degrees there. 32 in cloud for Sioux Lookout, Kapuskasing, 30 in sunshine. The Pas, 22 with a mix of sun and cloud. God's Lake, mostly sunny, 25 degrees, same with Norway House. 34 and cloud for Winnipeg, 31 for Brandon and Dauphin. Saskatchewan, 20 degrees and some showers expected. Sunshine for Yorkton, and 28. Buffalo Narrows and La Ronge, mix of sun and cloud, and 17 degrees there. Sunshine and 22 for Peace River and Grand Prairie. 14 and rain for Lethbridge, 15 and some showers for Red Deer. 23 for Kamloops with a chance of showers, 26 in Campbell River and sunny skies. 22 for Prince George and Fort Nelson and sunshine there. 13 in rain for Dawson City, 17 in showers for Whitehorse. 22 and sunny for Wrigley and Fort Simpson, 23 for Trout Lake and Fort Liard. 12 degrees and showers for Fort McPherson and Inuvik, 16 for Colville Lake. Baker Lake, 11 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud, mostly sunny, and 11 for New Yacht. Igloo Lake, mix of sun and cloud, and 6 degrees. Pangertung, 12 with a mix of sun and cloud. The Paralympic Games wrapped up their first week in Tokyo. Richard Peter is a multi-medal winner in wheelchair basketball, and he's still playing para-badminton. He spoke with Dennis Ward earlier.
Richard, thanks so much for taking some time for us here today. Can you tell us a little bit, tell our viewers a little bit about your long career?
Hi there, thanks for having me on. Gee, wow, yes, long career. Yes, I'm here as as a wheelchair basketball athlete, and I've participated in wheelchair basketball for about 20 years. I've been to 5 Paralympic Games. First one is in 1996, and I retired in 2012 for wheelchair basketball. So that's definitely something that I've really enjoyed. And then also sort of picked up lately that I've also played a bit of wheelchair para-badminton. And so we just started that within Canada within the last 4 to 5 years. And I went out to help out sort of drum up some athletes, and then also participated and enjoyed it as I really enjoy sort of all levels of sports.
Why do you feel it's important for Indigenous athletes to consider competing in the Games?
Well, actually, that's another good question too, in regards to even though with those 20 years that I was on the national team, specifically for the wheelchair basketball, that I was the only Indigenous athlete that was on the national team, and so that was definitely a bit of a challenge. As any Indigenous athlete knows, there's some good days and also some bad days, and so that was definitely a bit of a challenge at times. And so I think that's one of the benefits too, to show that I still was able to make it and achieve that level, that there's definitely opportunities for many other athletes to still strive through a lot of those different barriers and still reach for the stars and hopefully represent their community, but also represent Canada also.
Have you seen some change in those numbers over the years, from being the only guy to?
I think, yeah, throughout my career, there's always been athletes at many different levels, whether it's recreational, provincial, and national level too. So there's definitely, it's good to mainly get out there and just provide more opportunities. I got a lot of assistance coming from a small town, just with equipment wise. So that's one of the biggest things that I try to help sort of introduce different avenues for athletes to get out there. And, there's always financial and distance barriers that are out there, and transportation. So I always try to make it as easy as possible for any new athlete to get out there and still get their opportunity to get out and give a try to those sports and activities. And maybe not, you don't have to strive to be a national team member, but get out there and just enjoy sports and recreation and just have a good time.
Richard, as a multi-medal winner, what would you say was the highlight of your career?
That's always a tough question to ask. Of course, one of the biggest highlights is my first Paralympic Games and going into opening ceremonies. It's hard to describe, but just you're able to, I could say I was very proud to be an athlete, to represent my family, my Indigenous heritage, and also Canada at the same time. And so I was able to get out there, and that's where everybody was there to enjoy the games. Especially living here in Vancouver, when the 2010 games were here, there's always some issues that, all right, well, where's all this money coming from? How, can be spent better elsewhere? There was definitely a lot of, I guess, challenges that were leading up to it. But then once the games came here, then everybody realized just how much you could enjoy it, not just in Vancouver, but across Canada as a whole nation, that everybody really embraced it and had a great time, that you could showcase Vancouver and Canada. And then also, so those first set of games were pretty awesome for me to get out there and enjoy the first opening ceremonies. And then, of course, winning your first medal too, that's definitely a lot of hard work that's gone in. And so it's great to finally achieve your end goal. I'd still say even my last set of games, once I did retire, I said, all right, well, mainly it was my body that sort of said, all right, it's time to retire. And so it was great to finally achieve, a good career, and hopefully I did the best that I could.
Well, Richard, a great career indeed. Appreciate you taking some time here for us today.
Oh, it's always great to get out and, spread some awareness, and especially with the games on now. I've been watching as much of the Paralympics on TV that I can, or online. So it's always great to get out there and enjoy that, the next athletes that are performing today.
Way more impressive to watch those guys making shots than those big NBA guys who are only a few inches shorter than the net there, right? That is a wrap on your APTN News for this Friday. If you missed anything, be sure to visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Get caught up. I'm Melissa Ridgen. I'll see you back here tomorrow with your APTN News weekend. Till then, have a great night.